After the Ukraine scandal broke, dozens of Democrats who were on the fence about impeachment jumped onto the side of going ahead with both the inquiry and investigation. Now, nearly all of those House Democrats, they're all in. But there were a few holdouts even after Ukraine. One of them, Max Rose. The freshman Democrat represents Staten Island and part of Brooklyn. That is a swing district, which makes the political math even dicier. Our own Dominic, he was there and he caught up with the congressman at a town hall he hosted last night on Staten Island, Dom, where he made some news.
Well, Richard, we can tell you that Rose is a decorated veteran, and he told me the line for him is the president trying to use a foreign power to influence our election. He was one of the last Democratic holdouts until now.
But instead of allaying our concerns, the president and his administration have poured gasoline on the fire.
Max Rose, the freshman congressman, had been the only New York City Democrat and one of just a handful nationwide to decline to support the impeachment investigation. This was an issue-specific town hall on transportation. But there was an elephant in the room, and Rose started his address talking impeachment.
So while the president of the United States may be willing to violate the Constitution to get reelected, I will not.
As a Democrat in an overwhelming Republican district, he's walking a fine line, something his constituents are well aware of.
I think that you'd have to be stupid not to take into consideration the politics of this district and the decisions that may or may not be in line with a lot of the constituents.
Rose is facing re-election, and Staten Island was the only borough in New York City to support Trump in 2016.
Bottom line, I'd like the Congress to get more information and make an informed decision on whether or not they need to proceed with the actual articles of impeachment.
Congressman, are you concerned that this may cost you your re-election?
What's going on, brother? It's good to see you, man. Absolutely not.
Rose was part of the historic blue wave that won control of the House last year and was able to flip the seat, defeating GOP Congressman Dan Donovan. The district has been almost exclusively held by a Republican since 1981. One Republican rival for the seat, Assemblywoman Nicole Malliotakis, pounced immediately. Quote, Rose was flip-flopping on impeachment all week, telling D.C. he was for it, but telling our community he was against it. Then yesterday, an ally of Representative Ocasio-Cortez announced he would challenge Rose for the Democratic line. And 24 hours later, he caved on impeachment. Disgraceful. Rose responded and took a shot at the National Republican Congressional Committee.
I am not concerned at all by the NRCC or anyone that wants to try and challenge me, because they already tried once and we kicked their ass, okay? And guess what? That's exactly what is going to happen again. They have been absolute jokes.
The 11th Congressional District covers Staten Island and includes parts of southern Brooklyn. One resident, Ed Brochin, told us about the district.
It's a mixed district. There are two shores. There's the North Shore, which is mostly Democratic and liberal. Then there's the South Shore, where we are tonight, which is more of a conservative area.
But he also issued a warning to some Rose supporters. Now, what about the progressives that say, we voted you in, we want you to take a position?
I understand what they're saying, but I think they're premature on that, and they're using it as a litmus test, and as the only litmus test. If they do that, I think that's a mistake on their part, and I think that's ultimately going to hurt them. If they primary Rose, they get him out of the picture. That's going to lead to somebody getting elected that they really don't like, which is a Republican.
Is this something, whatever his position may be, one way or the other, that could come back to haunt him with his re-election?
I think that that's very possible.
Why are you supporting this investigation?
Well, as I've said, just in there, this is an incredibly grave issue of national security, and unfortunately the recent acts of obstruction by this administration certainly mandate that we escalate this to that of an impeachment inquiry. Now, this is not something that we take lightly. This is not something where we jump to any conclusions. The American people deserve to know deserve to know, if the President of the United States used the power of his or her office to advance his own personal self-interest. We're going to get to the bottom of the facts. We're going to do it in a transparent manner. We're going to earn the trust of the American people in the process. And in the process, we're going to uphold the Constitution.
So, Dominic, obviously some of the facts changed his mind, but for a guy who's up next year in a swing district here, it was in a Republican as recently as a year ago, Rose has to be looking at polls and getting the pulse. Seems, and did you get the sense from the town hall that the constituents understand why he's now basically made a decision to do it?
Absolutely, Richard. What I wish that it would have been a more traditional town hall in terms of open-ended questions. It was a topic-only town hall in which the topic was transportation, Verrazano Bridge, tolls, and so on, traffic nightmares for Staten Island residents. And so it was surprising because I thought the congressman might punt and not say anything about impeachment. And as I said in the piece just now, the elephant in the room was impeachment, and he came right out the gate and took on the topic. And so what I found interesting, the people that we talked to at the town hall, they understand and understood why he's being so deliberate in the process, because this could be a make or break issue. Considering that Republicans have held this seat, only one Democrat for a short term, and so the politics are dicey, as you said at the top of the segment.
You know, I saw him today. Obviously made the announcement where you were last night, but he made a lot of the national network stops, and you know, he drew on the fact that he wore a uniform till not long ago, and as a veteran and everything else, the idea of soliciting from a foreign power dirt on your opponent, and again, the president today doubled, if not tripled down on that when he asked not only the Ukrainians, but now also the Chinese to get involved. I get why it's an easier call for Rose. You know, the president's making it easier for him.
Absolutely, Richard, and taking the oath of office is something that the congressman talked about it today in interviews, but also talked about it last night quite a bit at the town hall, his military service, pointing out that he's only taken the oath of office to this degree twice. Once as a member of our military, the second as a member of Congress, and even vowed that the president may be upending our laws in the Constitution, but he will not violate his oath as a congressman.
Now, I noticed the congressman today, when explaining his decision, he also made it a point to say, Democrats, you know, don't make me regret this in effect. We know that there is the squad, if you will, that in the past at least has had some comments that made moderate Democrats, you know, grimace. He also said, no fried chicken at these things. If you remember, that Tennessee congressman brought a bucket of KFC to a meeting, you know, as a prop or whatever. Rose specifically talked about that today. You know, he's on thin ice in a district that can go either way. He doesn't need Democrats making it easier for Republicans.
Great way to put it. Keep in mind, he did not initially vote for Pelosi as Speaker, and he points out the fact that he has not gone along to get along, if you will, with party leadership. Let the games begin, Richard, in this district. There's going to be a ton of money coming in nationally from the national parties, and Rose's point, well, let me go to the Republicans first. Nicole Malliotakis may be the Republican candidate, a name that a person you've had on the show recently, Michael Grimm, is floating the possibility that he may run. So on the Republican side, we don't know yet who's going to be the candidate. Rose is looking at a primary from someone who supports the Congresswoman, as I support Congresswoman Ocasio-Cortez. So let the games begin. But they've also, Malliotakis, to answer your question, she's tried to tag Rose, if you will, with the term socialist Democrat, trying to tie him. Right. Rose, who's considered as a moderate by almost every measure, trying to tag him with that term.
And you got to figure, especially in a district like that, it's going to be a referendum on Trump one way or the other. Dominic, thank you.
Thank you.
When we come back, everybody, how Republicans are dealing with impeachment. They're upset with Nancy Pelosi and the Democrats, but many of them, they're also concerned about the man who will be the focus of the election next year, the President of the United States.